Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Pekin Freeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, ricmotech.com.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Season 3 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech World Challenge presented by Performa Texas Elite Graphics right here on Apex Racing TV. Embarking on an 8-round romp around North America's and the world's most challenging tarmac, we once again shine the spotlight on some of the best LMP2 and GT3 drivers from around the world. Coming off their exploration of America's National Park of Speed, tonight our racers head east to the Mecca of American road racing and the first permanent home of the United States Formula One Grand Prix. Tonight's 3.4-mile circuit promotes speed and once again will allow our drivers' steeds to stretch their legs, but they may find the overtake to be a bit difficult here in New York's Finger Lakes region and Watkins Glen International. I'm Greg Ginsberg, and joining me in the announce booth, as always, is lefty Larry McLeod, while Dennis Branch and Jonathan Grabowski bring you all of the best views of tonight's action. So hello first, and welcome, Larry, to Watkins Glen. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Greg. I am so excited again for another round of a World Challenge. And again, Watkins Glen doesn't get any better than this. This is just one of those tracks that is well suited to multi-class racing, and certainly for these two classes duking it out as we have turned the midpoint of our season. And this is going to be another one of those important rounds to try and accumulate points as we start now down the second half.
Yeah, that's right. As we now turn that corner, entering round 5 of 8 here in this season number 3 of the Ricmotech World Challenge, and things are definitely tightening up in some of the classes after that great battle that we saw a couple weeks ago at Road America. We'll go over the point standings here in just a few moments, but I think most people, Larry, I think they know Watkins Glen International.
If they don't, they should.
Yeah,
It's a gem.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, it is one of my favorite tracks, and it's certainly one of the most challenging tracks in North America, if only because you have that bright blue Armco mere inches off of your quarter panel, pretty much anywhere around 3.4 miles and 11 turns here. But tell you what, why don't we do this? Why don't we go, without further ado, we're going to turn things over to Kevin Ford and let him give everybody a rundown of beautiful Watkins Glen International.
Welcome, everyone, to Watkins Glen International. Great to have you with us as we provide you your track guide today around this amazing road course. Located just up the road from Lake Seneca, this place is deep in motorsports history. Let's get ready to head up the front straightaway. You'll notice our main grandstands to the left, our pit entry to the right there, coming out of that final corner. And this straightaway here is a fast one, and I'll tell you, coming down into turn 1 here, you really got to get heavy on the brakes. It is a downhill entry and a very fast elbow to the right, or known as the elbow. Get right back to throttle here. We're going to track out and use every bit of that exit to get some speed to come up this very fast straightaway. Coming up through the S's here, through turns 2, 3, and 4. Back to the right here out of 4. Get a good run up this back stretch. This is where a lot of overtaking happens here, coming down into the bus stop. But it can get a little crazy trying to get too wide through this section here. Back to the left, right back to the right, out of the bus stop down into turn 5 here, the carousel, very fast right-hander. Up out of there, we'll head down into the chute. Turn 6. This will be a late entry here into the apex. And right back to throttle, let that car track out off the exit. We'll head down into the heel of the boot here at Watkins Glen. Some good rotation out of that center there, up the hill. This is a very short little straightaway, but you will see some overtaking taking place here coming down into the toe. Turn 8. Right back to throttle up out of 8. This will bring us up to this tricky left-hander here. Off camber. Very tough turn to get right coming out of that exit there. Take it right out to the grass line. So we re-enter into the main course through turn 10, 11, or 10 here, and then we'll head down into the final corner here at Watkins Glen. Turn 11, right down to the apex. We're going to track that right out to the wall there and get some good speed coming up to the final straightaway here, the start-finish line. There you go. There's your track guide at the beautiful Watkins Glen.
All right, well, thank you very much to Kevin Ford for a lap, tonight's track guide here at Watkins Glen International. And Larry, as we saw there, as he was making his way around the course, you could just see how Watkins Glen promotes speed, how, again, as opposed to Road America, where a couple of weeks ago, you have these very long straightaways, you've got these 90-degree corners, some of them rather slow that you have to dig out of. Yeah, it seems here at Watkins Glen as though almost every single corner with some very slight variations from the theme are all high speed, and you're constantly just increasing and increasing and increasing that speed and carrying and using flow to get around these corners, and it really makes things difficult for the drivers to overtake.
Yeah, even the bus stop chicane here. There's a lot of tracks they, over the years of from the original circuits in the 50s to where they are today, have added chicanes to slow things down. The bus stop here is still a flying feature. It's not. I mean, yeah, it makes you basically brake for 5, a little bit earlier, but at the same sense, it is a very fast maneuver. And really, there aren't a lot of slow corners. Slowest corner around here is probably, what is it, turn 9. I mean, but even that isn't really. It's tricky, but it's not exactly a tight hairpin. And that's what makes this place so interesting.
Exactly, and that is a corner that you're typically not going to see overtaking at either, just simply due to its nature there, that it's not a corner you necessarily want to be going side by side for an extended period of time with a driver, and because of the it's one of the few corners here at Watkins Glen that is off camber. You go through side by side, get pushed out by somebody, you end up in the guardrail. But almost everything else here is very heavily cambered, is banked, that it kind of, as long as you can get in the groove, will just kind of suck you into a corner and help you carry speed.
Yeah, and it's tough, as you mentioned, kind of alluded to that. It's really tough to pass around here. Turn 9 being the slowest is not really a passing zone. Maybe entering the bus stop could be a passing zone. Now, for multi-class racing, there's a couple spots for the faster classes to scoot on by, for our LMP2s to get on by our GT3s, and that'll happen relatively easily. But at the same sense, if you're in the class, it's not going to be easy at all to make that pass, to set someone up like it was at Road America, where you can kind of come onto the front straight, you can come off of 3 onto the back straight, make a pass into 5. There's places within the class that you can make a pass. Here at Watkins Glen, it's not quite like that. It's a little in that way, a little bit like Mosport, where it's very difficult to set up a pass because there's just so much speed everywhere. Even the slow corners are relatively fast, and that to me is what's interesting about the challenge of it is watching someone work another driver through 6, 7, and 8 to try and make that pass going into 8 if they can, or even try side by side through 9 and maybe make a pass going into the last corner. Things like that, the craft of it, I think, really come out on a track like this, and that's why I do love the place. It's very classic in its layouts and rolling hills here in upstate New York, but it's also very difficult to pass, and I think it makes it for great racing to watch.
Absolutely, it does, Larry. So we've got our drivers. They're out on their qualifying session right now. As we always do here in the World Challenge, we do use what's called a lone qualifying, where each of the drivers appears as though they have the track to themselves. They've got 15 minutes in order to put in up to 4 flying laps. Fastest lap, of course, will be used to set the grid in each one of our 3 classes. Of course, we've got our LMP2 drivers, and then we have both GT3 Pro and GT3 AM. And if you take a look at that timing pylon on the left-hand side of your screen, the drivers that have the blue position numbers to the left of their names, those are our LMP2 drivers. I think it's pretty apparent when they're driving the LMP2. They also have the blue number boards and blue windshield banners on their cars. For the GT3 cars, the drivers that have the red next to them, they are in GT3 Pro. You'll notice they also have red number boards, red mirrors, as well as red windshield banners. And then our GT3 AM drivers, they have the green mirrors, green number boards, green windshield banners as well. So that's how you tell them apart. And right now, fastest driver on track, Caleb Lavender, driver of the number 333 machine. Fast time at the moment, provisional pole time for LMP2 is a 131.52. Lavender was our winner just a few weeks ago at Road America. And Larry, this might be a great time to segue in. We'll take a look back to round number 4 at the National Park of Speed, Road America, where in LMP2, Caleb Lavender did take the win over Arthur Chan, and that was a pretty decent battle there between those two drivers, but it never really looked like Caleb Lavender was in.
He just didn't make any mistakes that night. It was really a kind of a clinic to watch, where Arthur Chan just thought maybe it was a shot there with the pit exchanges, and Caleb really just never made the mistake that gave Arthur a chance. The one that did make the mistake, and I'm sure you'll get to that eventually, would be our pole sitter that night, Kristen Eisler, who had just an inch of mistake through Bill Mitchell Bend, hit a little bit of grass on the edge of the curb on the right side, and ended his night. So he went from pole to being kind of the back marker there. he'll be looking to get back in form tonight. There's a good shot of him right there.
Yeah, there is coming through the toe of the boot on his. This looks to be his, I believe, second qualifying. Actually, it's his very first qualifying lap here out on track. And so Arthur Chan in his Axon Driving Solutions entry finished second. Jennifer McDonald in her BTL Motorsports entry came away on the third step of the podium. And if we take a look at the point standings in LMP2 after 4 rounds of 8, Christian Eisler didn't hurt him all that much. Although things have definitely closed down in the points between he and Caleb Lavender. You can see a 15-point advantage for the Punto Seal Racing entry of Eisler. Caleb Lavender in his D2D E-Racing entry, 10 points back with 105. Arthur Chan another 4 points back at 50. And then Jennifer McDonald, who I believe missed 1 round, so a little bit of a disadvantage there with 95 points. Chris Thorman at 91. Why don't we jump on over to GT3 and we'll take just quickly give an update here as Evan Peichel is currently your fastest GT3 Pro driver on course with a fast time of a 1:44.46. That's with 2 laps in the books. And a couple weeks ago at Road America, Evan Peichel, he was your winner in GT3 Pro in the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing entry. There he is on screen, and right behind him, and it was a pretty close battle there with Tony Kernan in the number 7 Porsche, the Kernan Motorsports entry. Jeff Jacobs in his StreetSurvival.org Mercedes taking the last step on the podium, with Travis Schwenke and Andre Saunders rounding out the top 5. And we'll be talking to Mr. Schwenke here in just a few moments. But if we take a look at the point standings as they happen to be after 4 rounds, you can see things are very close up at the top of the order there with Evan Peichel in that number 263 BMW, 108 points. Only 3 points back is Tony Kernan in that number 7 Porsche, with Jeff Jacobs, doing my simple math, what's that, about 20 points, 22 points back. And then we've got Travis Schwenke in the Orion Racing Porsche. He is sitting back with 75, currently sitting 4th. His teammate Mike Dam, who I do not believe is here this evening, currently sitting 5th in the points. And after our last round, he actually dropped from 2nd in the point standings back to 5th. And with him not here tonight, I suspect he's going to drop a little bit more. But again, we're going to talk to Travis Schwenke, the driver of the number 16 entry, here in just a few moments. If we take a look over at GT3 AM, 2 Porsches sitting up at on the podium here just a couple of weeks ago. Eduardo Lorente in the Courage Motorsports car took the win with Steve Daniel in the SKKJ Racing entry. Another Ferrari coming in 2nd. Julian Bell, great run for Julian in the Graphite Racing Porsche, finished in 3rd, with Childs and Ruddick finishing 4th and 5th. Bobby Childs running his D2D E-Racing Ferrari, and the Flying Tortoise Motorsports Lamborghini of Russ Ruddick, as I mentioned, coming in 5th at Road America. And if we go and take a look at the points, you can see right up there Eduardo Lorente coming off of his win, has extended things out just a little bit. He's now 12 points up on Bobby Childs, the 2 Ferraris sitting at the top of the order. And then we've got Steve Daniel in his SKKJ Racing Ferrari. So 3 Ferraris up at the top of the order, and only a single point separating Bobby Childs and Steve Daniel. So tonight will be absolutely critical. Then we've got Julian Bell and Russ Ruddick rounding out the top 5. All right, so getting word, Larry, that we've got Travis Schwenke sitting in the green room. He's gonna give us a little bit of insight on tonight's race. Let's bring him on in.
All right, so we're joined here with Travis Schwenke, and Travis from the Orion Racing. Travis, you're probably still there. You are. So going into this round, we've kind of hit the midpoint of the season now, starting round 5 out of 8. What are your thoughts going into the second half? What do you at this point, just trying to survive and collect points? Or are you actually going out there to try and grab a couple wins?
Well, I think I'm always trying to win. Hasn't worked out. So even last race in Suzuka, I was just trying to be smooth, get that podium, and I just didn't have a great setup underneath me. And the Degner curbs were pretty dangerous. And as I was getting in the flow, I started taking a little more, and eventually it just bounced off the one. It just wasn't good over those curbs there. So I'll try to. There's a couple places here where it's a little sketchy too, so I'll just try to be careful there and try to get a podium. And if I'm in the position to win, I'll definitely go for it.
Yeah, this points battle is really going to be tough. Some real tough competition here this year. You've got guys like Evan and some of the other ones, and Tony have just been absolutely flying. Are you working a little extra hard, getting a few extra practice sessions in during the week to try and get ready for these?
Unfortunately not. I practiced a little more this week because our team is in an endurance championship too, so we've been doing a lot of work on that, and that's in a GTE car. So if it the only good news is we're at Watkins this coming weekend, so definitely didn't get the practice in at least the last couple rounds. I definitely had a little more this round, so hopefully it pays off. Obviously practice does always help, so I tried to get in some when I could and try to get the setup a little better.
Yeah, it's Watkins Glen's one of those tracks I guess we all race a lot on, so hopefully that helps you get that setup down. As the race unfolds tonight, you're going to have probably a lot of traffic between the LMP2s getting by in some of the slower GT3 cars. Is it just try and pick your spot to get on by? You think Watkins Glen's one of those tracks a little bit easier to get on by in a multi-class race?
The multi-class, it should be, they actually get around pretty decently. There's a couple spots that are a little sketchy, the outside of 6 going down and through the laces there, the chute or whatever they call that. That's a little sketchy, but I know they're going to do it. Otherwise, it's not too bad. It's just going to, and then, trying to pass the other cars. There are some good spots. The hard thing is knowing, do you have to spend that lap to figure out where you're faster than someone, right? That sometimes is the hard part of you're trying to be safe, and you also need to figure out where it is that you're beating them. And if you don't know that, you kind of waste the lap trying to get around.
Yeah, an important thing. They don't want to waste too much time around here in these long races. Those little bits of time certainly add up. And when you're fighting for a championship, you don't want to lose any of that. So, all right, well, good luck tonight. It looks like you're kind of starting. Looks like right now about that second row, but maybe you can make a move early and be fighting for that podium. So, good luck tonight, and hopefully we'll talk to you at the end of the race.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, there you go. Travis Schwenke, driver of the number 16 Orion Racing GT3 Pro Porsche. Thanks for joining us there. And if we take a look now as we are starting to wind things down here in qualifying, Larry, got a little bit less than a minute to go. Last time we had checked in, Caleb Lavender was our provisional pole sitter. It is now Christian Eisler looking to expand upon his championship lead in the number 14 Delara LMP2 entry. Caleb Lavender second fastest, about a quarter of a second in arrears. Jennifer McDonald in the number 99 machine sitting third fastest right now in LMP2. In GT3 Pro, and I believe all of our now I think most of our drivers have put in their 4 laps. Evan Peichel fastest with Andre Saunders and Travis Schwenke, and in AM Julian Bell pulled out the provisional pole with Bobby Childs and Eduardo Lorente. And now I think I've ruined it for everybody. I think we're going to have the starting grid here in just a few moments.
Do you want me to call the grid? So at least it sounds different.
Why not? Yeah, no sense of me doing everything twice. Yeah.
All right, let's go through our grid, the official grid here. Now on the pole for LMP2 and leading the pack down the front straight for the first time will be Christian Eisler in the Punto CL Racing outfit. He'll be lined up alongside Caleb Lavender, last round's winner of the GT Racing by Skull. He'll be on the outside of row 1. On row 2, on the inside, BTL Motorsports, Jennifer McDonald, lined up against another GTE Racing driver. This will be Chris Thorman. Over in GT3 Pro, you've got Evan Peichel, your pole sitter there on the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing car. He'll be alongside in the Mohawk Racing, Andre Saunders. Row 2, we just talked to him, Travis Schwenke from Orion Racing. He'll be lined up against Tony Kernan in Kernan Motorsports. On row 3, Jeff Jacobs will be the only driver there on row 3 for the GT3 Pros. In the GT3 AM, Julian Bell is your pole sitter. He's just barely ahead of the outside of row 1 on that field. Bobby Childs, the DTD Racing there. On row 2, Eduardo Lorente in Courage Motorsports, lined up alongside Steve Daniel from SKKJ Racing. And finally, last but not least, Russ Ruddock in the Flying Tortoise Motorsports outfit there on row 3 in GT3 AM.
All right, there you go. That is the starting order for tonight's Ricmotech World Challenge battle here from Watkins Glen International. And this extended race, of course, Larry, a lot of strategies going to play in. We talked about how difficult it is to pass, but of course, we would expect all of our drivers in the GT3 class, of course, to take at least a single pit stop And based on where we are with the LMP2 drivers, we think that they can probably only make it about 30 minutes on a tank of fuel. They will likely be taking 2 pit stops here this evening to get through the entire distance, all 75 minutes of it here tonight.
Yeah, so a couple of pit stops always makes it interesting around here for sure. As we talk about that every week, that strategy of get in, get out. Do you pit early? Do you not? We saw Arthur Chan take a bit of a different strategy the last race. Curious to see if anybody in those LMP2s tried that again. And then, of course, with the GT3s, it's just going to be kind of around that middle and to try to lose the minimal amount of time in and out of those pits, and with choosing it wisely with who you pit with. And be interesting. It's a long race, and certainly staying clean for the endurance seems to be the goal of everyone. But those blue barriers are just so intimidating.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, I mean, and I always when I run here, of course, we talked about turn 9, the slowest corner on the track, but that is one I think that puts the most fear in me more than any other, because you always just feel like the car is going to roll and just drift right into that Armco there. You probably have less runoff there than on any other corner. And because it's so much slower, you have more time to see exactly what you might do to your vehicle here. But we've got the pace car now bringing our 4-car LMP2 field down into the bus stop, otherwise known as the inner loop here at Watkins Glen. And as Larry mentioned, that is going to be one of the prime passing areas here at Watkins Glen, as those drivers, as they come out of the very long run from the 90 turn 1 all the way up through the S's and along that back straight, got to get on the maybe a little bit more so, obviously a little bit more so for the GT3 drivers than the LMP2 drivers, but still, going to have to get on the binders. It's a great opportunity for drivers to go too wide or attempt to go too wide. We've seen 3 wide at times going into the bus stop there, where again, an opportunity to pass where it may be more difficult at a number of these other areas on the course, as we now have our GT3 drivers coming out of the coming out of the outer loop, turn 5B, and going down now that short chute into the boot area. And as they go down, the LMP2's taking the run, what they call the sole of the boot. If you take a look at an overhead shot of that area of the track known as the boot, you've got the laces running down, you've got a little toe there, you got the sole where our GT3 drivers are coming into right now, and then you got the heel, which brings you right back up towards that turn 9 where our LMP2 drivers are heading right now. But waiting for the LMP2 drivers to grid up 2x2 as they come through that aforementioned turn 9, and you can see how close the Armco gets to the side of the track there. Driver is right. Didn't take long for our 4 LMP2 cars to grid up, Larry, as they now come through turn 10.
Well, for Lavender on the outside, his goal should be to try and push Eisler down the inside into 1 and maybe slow him down to make a pass going before they get to the bus stop. If that doesn't happen, it's going to be tough to find any other opportunities to pass before they start their pit sequences. So watch for Lavender to try and make a move. But there goes the jump already for Eisler.
There we go. Green flag in the air. You can see our starter waving. Probably going to end up getting a dislocated shoulder from that, as Christian Eisler, Larry, doesn't have to worry about it all that much. He gets a great jump coming out of turn 11. He's already opened up about a 5-car length advantage. Our GT3 cars are just coming through turn 11. We'll jump to them for the start here in just a moment. But Eisler coming up through the S's now, heading down towards the bus stop. And you can see right behind Caleb Lavender, he is mirroring everything Eisler does with McDonald and Thorman. A little bit of a battle there, as we have a green flag for our GT3 drivers.
Yeah, those GT3s very, very different looking, whereas the Eisler took off there coming off of the last corner down the front straight, made no opportunities for anyone to pass. GT3s were side by side right up until the starter stand, and it's going to be a bit harder of a fight, a little bit more of a dog fight going into the bus stop for this first time through.
So Evan Peichel gets a little bit of a jump. He's got Andre Saunders and Travis Schwenke, who we talked to just a little while ago in his Orion Racing Porsche, sitting in third. Then we've got right behind him Tony Kernan in the Kernan Motorsports entry, as well as they go into the bus stop for the very first time. All nose to tail. Things look good so far. Got for a bit of a challenge right there with Julian Bell, our GT3 AM driver, right on the back of Tony Kernan, with Bobby Childs there as well. And so a little bit of a battle about halfway back through the GT3 field as they now come through turn number 7 and start to make their way down into the toe of the boot as things start to stretch out just a little bit. Here is Andre Saunders trying to, had a little bit of an issue at Road America, and that black BMW wants to make amends, and so far staying close to our leader, Evan Peichel, who's looking for the repeat here from Watkins Glen.
Yeah, he's going to try and make his BMW just a little faster than Saunders. Behind him is the 2 Porsches. You get a good shot of him there with Kernan and Schwenke right there in that next 2 spots. But, I did notice real quick, though, out in the front is Chris Thorman had a bit of a spin there. So one of those LMP2 cars, there was a pack of 4, now down to a pack of 3. And Thorman was able to, looks like, continue, but definitely now drop down a little bit. As that is Jennifer McDonald looking like she may have had an issue potentially coming out of the bus stop. As that's going out of the outer loop right there.
Yeah, and she's dropped off considerably from the rest of the field. We'll take a look at that here in just a few moments as we're on board right now with Eduardo Lorente. He's right on the back of Jeff Jacobs' really Mercedes.
Is. Yeah, he's pushing hard. He wants to make sure he keeps up with Bell and Childs up there in front of him. Doesn't want to let the always wide card Jeff Jacobs hold him up by any means.
All right, let's take a look here. I think we've got the replay of Jennifer McDonald in her LMP2 car, and you're right, Larry, as she went into the bus stop. Let's take a look.
Just catches those big apex curbs there. Just taps the wall there at the edge of it. Probably doesn't do any damage. These LMP2 cars are pretty durable, but certainly loses a lot of ground there. He was just ahead of...
I think she was just ahead of Thorman there a few moments ago. But in that 4-car field. Now, again, the curbs at the bus stop over at the inner loop, probably taller than most any of the curbs that we have here at Watkins Glen. And, the GT3 cars, they can certainly eat them up a little bit, but those LMP2 cars, those flat-bottom cars, very stiff suspensions, you just have to be careful with them. Here you can just see Christian Eisler. He goes over the curbing at the exit of the bus stop. Didn't seem to upset the car, but certainly the ones on the inner portion can be problematic.
Yeah, the ones on the driver's left seem to be a little bit more harsh than the one on the driver's right is at the exit of it. The other thing is that was only on basically lap 2, or maybe I think it was lap 2 there for Jennifer. Tires in these cars do take a little bit longer to warm up. These are not exactly, like some of these smaller cars, different classes that are hot right out of the get-go. The LMP2 cars need a couple laps. Also, with a full load of fuel, loaded up for the long haul of the race. Jennifer might have had all those things working against her there on that first corner. But again, she was able to continue on, only lost about 10 seconds or so she's back underway. As Lorente now under fire from Steve Daniel now in the other Ferrari.
Yeah, the 2 Ferraris here as Lorente had been trying to get around Jeff Jacobs and get into that battle for the lead in GT3 AM with Julian Bell and Bobby Childs. Now you've got Steve Daniel in the number 96 machine, and you might as well add Russ Ruddick in his Lamborghini to the party as well. All 3 of them getting bottled up just a little bit behind that big wide Mercedes.
Again, that Mercedes is always a tough pass. But around here, if you don't get it done in one corner, you leave yourself victim of a bit of a slide there for Jacobs, giving Lorente an opportunity on the inside of 6. He's even get on alongside him. This is the challenge of Watkins Glen. He's going to have to now try on an outside line through the toe.
It's a long way around as he tries to then come underneath, and if he can stay alongside or close to alongside the Mercedes, he'd have a position going into turn 8, but cannot quite get close enough. Turn 8 is a somewhat heavy braking corner. You'll sometimes see an overtake attempt there, but not this time. Eduardo Lorente, he gets back behind. Of course, he has to play a little bit of a 3-dimensional chess here, Larry, because he's got to worry about whatever moves that he tries to make on Jeff Jacobs, that he may have Steve Daniel try a counter move as well to complicate things for him.
Yeah, he wasn't able to take advantage. Lorente was not able to take advantage of the big slide through 6 that Jeff Jacobs had in front of him. He kind of backed off a little bit too much, wasn't able to get the run down towards 7. You got to learn where your strengths are, where the corners are opportunities for passing. And to me, going into 8 is an opportunity, but you've really got to push someone tight on the entry of 7 and get a great exit off of 7 and be able to get by them before you get to 8. If you don't push them hard enough into the entry on that, you let them get any kind of a run up the short hill through 7, you're not going to get that pass done. I think Lorente is starting to figure that out, that this place is all about the combo moves.
Exactly, Larry. All right, so coming into the bus stop right now, jump back to the battle for the lead here in GT3 Pro with Evan Peichel and Andre Saunders. Saunders had a great run up through the S's, could not quite get that number 72 BMW up beside Peichel's car as they set up for braking going into the bus stop. He's going to fall back in line here, and as they go down into turn 7, into the toe of the boot, you know, you see here also, you can see where the grip is. You can see that concrete patch on the center of the pavement there for the drivers to put their left-hand wheels. That is where they load up all the weight there. And if you have to try and go to the outside like we saw Lorente try and Jeff Jacobs earlier, you know, you end up out of that groove, and it's a very long way around there. So, you know, again, you've got to think, as you mentioned, about the combo move, what the effects are of making and positioning your car one way in one corner to set up for the very next part of the complex, which comes up here. But it looks like for the moment here, and we're going to start to see now our LMP2 leader, Christian Eisler, try to make his way through this GT3 traffic. The 3 GT3 AM drivers of Lorente, Daniel, and Ruddock, they've dropped back just a little bit from Jeff Jacobs.
Yeah, and here at Watkins Glen, it does allow for the multi-class racing for that LMP2 car to blast by a couple of them right down here on the front straightaway. He was able to get by 2 of them. And then as he enters the back straight, he was able to get by the remainder of this little pack. And that's at least the one good thing about this track, is it does do this kind of racing pretty well. This isn't exactly like a city street circuit where the LMP2s get stuck, or even at Suzuka, where we saw some opportunities there where the LMP2 struggled at times to get on by. I think here, you're not going to get help for long.
No, definitely not. I mean, you've got a fairly wide track surface in a lot of places here in order to make your way around, and an opportunity to, again, accelerate out of corners to overtake some of these GT3 cars as we jump back to that battle for the lead in Pro.
I tell you what, Saunders is really pressuring Peichel. I did not expect this. Peichel's been pretty dominant when he's got the lead in a race to just set down a great laps, but Saunders is using maybe a little bit of toe behind him. Doesn't, you don't get a huge toe around here, but you get just a little bit. But I think right now he's taking really good lines and just trying to stick with Peichel here early in the race. Peichel, on the other hand, there are strategies you could play here, knowing how tough it can be to pass. You could take 9.5 tenths to some of these corners, save a little bit of tire. You might be able to even coast brake a little bit, where you can save a little bit of fuel. Even from the lead, you can do these things. Here is Travis Schwenke, a little bit of trouble there.
Yeah, Schwenke going off over, this is over at, coming out, where are we right now?
That looked like 8.
8. Yeah, I was going to say that was coming out of the heel of the boot as we had some of our LMP2 traffic coming through, and you can see we've got under review right now Travis Schwenke and in the 16 car, and then also the 14 car of Christian Eisler, who was our leader. And I was going to say, Larry, as we were on board and watching both Peichel and Saunders, that for the time, Kernan and Schwenke were very, very close. They were still in the fight as well. And as the LMP2 field started to work their way through our top 4 drivers in Pro, it looked as though the 2 Porsches got separated out. And now you can see here that is something that the stewards are going to be looking at.
We have a change for the lead here as Caleb Lavender has passed Christian Eisler here on this lap. I was just kind of watching that as you were talking there, that the gaps had come down, and Eisler, who's being investigated for the incident there with Travis Schwenke, we don't have a replay on that yet, but we're curious what that would be, because I'm wondering if it led to this. He had about a 4-second gap on Lavender. That gap is now gone, and Lavender now has the lead. So I'm wondering if Eisler, maybe having a bit of a limp going on in his car, is also under investigation of the 9938. That is Jeff Jacobs and Jennifer McDonald. So again, cross classes there, incidents being investigated by the stewards.
And Larry all right. Let's take a look here. I think we've got the replay now, Larry, of Schwenke coming through the boot with the LMP2 cars coming up on him, and you'll see it there on the right. Oh yeah.
He may have had some help.
Yes, and that gravel trap there at turn 8 is, I think, the largest gravel trap that you have at Watkins Glen. A lot of the runoff area here has been paved over.
It's not much runoff anywhere. That probably is the biggest runoff spot in the whole track.
Exactly, and so obviously it took a lot of time there for him to recover. As we jump back to live action here, and we go back to, this is the battle for fourth. And you'll notice here, Steve Daniel, driver of the number 96 machine, has gotten around Eduardo Lorente, and Russ Ruddock sitting a couple car lengths back. Of course, the Jeff Jacobs, the Mercedes now, is back in arrears, but that has allowed a change there. And Daniel now in the last podium position, but very early days here from Watkins Glen. We'll see what Eduardo Lorente can do, and he looks to be pressuring the Ferrari quite hard there.
Well, all this battling that Lorente was doing to try to get around Jacobs, and now the battling here with Daniel, has given some breathing room to Julian Bell and Bobby Childs, who are currently first and second in the AM class out in front. So for Lorente, he really needs to kind of settle down the passing here, the battling a little bit, and just try and get some laps in. If that means following Steve Daniel, then go ahead and do it. But it doesn't look like he wants to. It looks like he wants that spot back.
All right, and just noticed, Larry, have Chris Thorman, who had been running fourth in LMP2. He is on the pit lane, and he's been there for a very long time. He's been there, it looks like he was there now for over almost 3 minutes. So might have encountered some issues, might have taken some quick repairs.
Well, I know I had seen him spin on the first lap of the race. I don't know if he had maybe caught some damage there and maybe it just progressively got worse. That's unfortunate there for Chris Thorman.
All right,
but up in the fronts, Lavender and Eisler are still putting on a show.
I'll tell you what, I think we've got a replay of Chris Thorman. Let's take a look here. And this is going to be, Larry, as we're jumping now back to the replay, as we see Chris Thorman going off there.
But yeah, let's talk about what was just sent up.
Yeah, Caleb Lavender assigned responsibility for the incident with Travis Schwenke. It was not Eisler. I think it was Lavender who had gotten into the back of the number 16 machine. And so not only has Eisler now taken over the lead from Caleb Lavender is going to have a drive-through penalty assessed as well.
Yeah, that's tough. And it looked like he may have just let Eisler by.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, he did. He looked like he had yielded to him, but perhaps he's having a conversation with the stewards as well, or maybe he just knows that he's going to be coming in and just felt like it was better to let Eisler by. Let's see if he pulls in the service penalty. He is.
And he is. So the 333 machine into the pits. He's going to serve a drive-through. And we'll take a look here at the gap. Jennifer McDonald about 25 seconds back.
He should be safe for a drive-through, but there she is right now, coming on to the front straight.
Yeah, so she should be able to get around. Looking right now also at the contact between the 99 of McDonald and the 38 machine.
Yeah.
The Mercedes of Jeff Jacobs as well. You may see the 99 serving some time as well. We'll have to see how this plays out, but at least in the meantime, this has really opened things up for Christian Eisler.
I think that Jennifer McDonald ruling was no action, inconclusive there between Jennifer McDonald and Jeff Jacobs. So that one will not lead to a penalty, but for Lavender, that's a pretty costly penalty to go from the lead to now about 20 seconds back and lose a position in the middle of that. So that's a tough move there for Lavender. Tough ruling for him.
All right, we're on board right now. You can see there's the number 16 of Schwenke now running in fourth in pro, and he has 4 AM cars, including Russ Ruddock directly ahead of him, that he needs to be able to dispatch in order to get into this battle with Kernan, Saunders, and Peichel for the win in GT3 Pro. So a long hoe to row here for Travis Schwenke. Looks like he's going to get around. That machine, get around the Ruddock Lamborghini here, going through the bus stop.
He's just trying to get on through. Also trying to get on through is going to be. That's Thorman. Oh no! And Thorman now having contact with Schwenke. These two guys have had one rough night, and that is not going to help.
No, and you can see lots of damage there to Thorman's machine as he went into the Armco. Schwenke goes in a slow spin, but there we go. Looks like Mr. Thorman is done there. Let's take a look at the replay, Larry.
Yeah, just coming out of the outer loop here, and it looks there's enough separation, and I don't know if Schwenke just didn't see him, or maybe thought he was already on by, but that's unfortunate for both drivers. Certainly for Thorman, who appears that that damage is going to be terminal. But that's really
unfortunate. As Schwenke just started moving over, and I think perhaps he thought that the LMP2 car would be clear of him by the time he got over driver's right, and obviously was not. As we jump back now to what is the battle here for as we're on board with Steve Daniel in the number 96 machine, and just ahead of him he's got Bobby Childs, and look at this. This is now the battle for the lead in AM. Here as let's see, Julian Bell had already gone into the pits, I believe.
So Childs is the current leader in the AM class. Do not know what happened to Julian Bell. Is Julian Bell and Bobby Childs were sitting at 1-2 in the class. There's Bell there, making his way around Russ Ruddock. I don't know exactly what happened there, but he certainly has given up a lot of track position to falling down the field a little bit, losing a couple of spots there. So now it's Childs ahead of Daniels, Lorente, Ruddock, and now Bell trying to make the pass there in class.
Yeah, and Larry, I'm showing that he was on the pit lane for 0.8 of a second, less than 0.9, and I'm wondering if he had an issue coming out of turn 11 and might have dipped down underneath the pit line there, and then recovered. But he is now in the thick of it with Russ Ruddock in battle for fourth. As we jump back now to Christian Eisler. And Eisler just ran his fastest lap of the race at a 1:31.76. He has now a 20-second advantage over Jennifer McDonald as the field in LMP2 has stretched out here.
And there you see.
All right, let's take a look.
Incident.
Yeah,
as
let's
they've
take a
just
look.
ruled on the Schwenke one. We'll get to that in a second as we watch this replay.
Hey, look at that, Larry.
Wow.
I was spot on.
Sometimes, Greg, you're spot on it.
And there's your 0.9 of a second as he tries to rejoin right as traffic is coming out of turn 11 onto the front straight and gets that car back underway. But slow spin there, and again, one of those things. You come through turn 11.
Yeah.
With a lot of the turns here at Watkins Glen, you get out of that groove. You maybe turn in a little bit late. You miss the apex, and you just hit dirty track there, and the rear end wants to come around on you. Looks like that's what happened to Julian Bell.
And it's unfortunate for him because he's certainly in a points battle and in a position here to try and win this race for this class. Now he's got a lot of work to do to catch up. As we're watching Lorente try to make the pass on Steve Daniel down the back straight into the bus stop, side by side.
Oh, big wiggle there from Lorente under braking. You can see. Look at
bigger
this.
Wiggle now.
Oh yes, as there you go, going into the wall, Eduardo Lorente. And it looked like he was still trying to get the car back under control after that late braking maneuver, and that is going to give a lot of air cover now to Steve Daniel in the number 96 machine here. He's gonna let the 14 of Eisler go on by, obviously, but he now has a huge advantage over Julian Bell.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for Lorente. He had a pretty good battle going on there with Daniel. Thought maybe he could have that spot, and too wide to the bus stop is really tough to do, and he caught a bit of uneven pavement out there and sent it into that barrier. But for Steve Daniel, though, he's able to continue now, still sitting as good solid alone in second place in the AM class, though I did see, not too far behind him, is the battle of Julian Bell and Russ Ruddock for now the third and fourth spot, so those guys are coming.
All right, and after his drive-through penalty, Caleb Lavender has caught back up to Jennifer McDonald. This is the battle for second in LMP2. He knocked out almost 20 seconds, Larry, here in the last couple of laps. I don't know if Jennifer had another issue, but still very, very close.
When he did his drive-through, Jennifer was coming down the front straight and came out on track just a couple seconds ahead of him. So Caleb was able to cut that lead down now and try to find his way around this very difficult to pass track. Speaking of difficult to pass, here we are back at the GT3 Pros, and it is still Evan Peichel and Andre Saunders 1-2, and just a little bit more daylight between them, but it hasn't changed much since the flags went green.
All right, as we're now a little bit over 20 minutes into this 75-minute battle here from Watkins Glen International, and Peichel's opened up a little bit of a margin now over the 72 machine of Saunders, and Saunders might be sitting back again.
A whole 9/10.
Yeah.
As much time as it would take for Julian Bell to enter the exit the pits, that's about the gap right now between Michael and Saunders.
Yeah, as long as it would take for him to exit and leave the pits from pit in there. We'll have to keep watching that. Saunders might be in fuel saving mode right now, also having took some early attacks on our Lido Peichel, as we now have
Lavender.
Jennifer McDonald and Lavender going down.
He's use that opportunity with the lap traffic there to try and push Jennifer a little bit to the wrong line. She was able to hold her position for the moment, hang on to that second spot in class. He's now going to try and make a way around Mr. Bell through one of the toughest corners to drive by yourself, let alone too wide.
I would say too wide, and and perhaps it's not that big a deal for the LMP2 cars to go around the outside of turn 9, but for Julian Bell to stick that Porsche and keep that thing to the inside of 9, even turning it a little late and trying to square it off, very, very difficult. As McDonald now, as you can see, a little bit defensive, as you would suspect, going down into turn 1, and we'll see what happens. See if Mr. Lavender decides to try and make a move going into the bus stop.
I think what you're seeing is a couple of things. These cars do draft a little bit. The straightaways here are not that straight, not that long. But if you don't make the pass, you're stuck in air wash. But right now it looks like Lavender's going to try and make the move, get alongside. Jennifer takes the defensive line going into the bus stop. Are they going to try the two wide like we saw with Daniel and Durante? No, they're going to fall in line for Lavender. He's a little bit smarter this time to not try and go too wide there. But again, this is how tough it is to make a pass around here. A good defensive positioning, perfectly legal, makes it really hard for the passing car to get around.
Yes, and we saw that Lavender, he had a great run coming up through the S's, tried to make an early move around McDonald and didn't take the jump, and I think it cost them maybe a half a car length going down into the bus stop, but we're going to start it all over again now as they make their way over down towards turn 7, over towards the toe of the boot, and McDonald gets a little bit of an advantage as they both had to get around some of that GT3 traffic and now come through turn 9. And McDonald, again, with a tiny little bit of breathing room here, for at least for the moment, over Caleb Lavender's 333 machine.
It's not much. Caleb is noticeably quicker.
Yeah.
But again, it's a matter of where is he quicker and where can he make that to his advantage. Jennifer right now doing a fantastic job of just driving very consistent and taking opportunities, as we just saw there with the GT3 car, to quickly get around it and to stay there positioned for a defensive position around that turn 8 and 9. And again, here we go, climbing the S's down toward the bus stop one more time.
Yeah, and they're coming up on Tony Kernan here. But I think when they come out onto the back straight, they'll be able to dispatch Kernan fairly easily. And probably coming down to the inside of Kernan was a bit of an advantage for McDonald, allow her to stick that car inside just a little bit, take away any kind of run that Lavender might have had. And she's going to lead him down through the outer loop as they head down the chute into the boot once again. But both of these drivers starting to come up on some more GT3 traffic. As a matter of fact, they're coming up, it looks like, on Andre Saunders right now, which we'll take a look here. Saunders a little bit, he's got Peichel just ahead of him, so this could cause some issues in that battle for the lead in GT3 Pro as McDonald gets by. Saunders does not get by Peichel, however, until they go into turn 9, and it looks like Lavender gets held up just a little bit as well, and he's going to have to sneak underneath the two BMWs coming out of turn 9.
Solid by the BMWs, just do what they have to do. They can't give up their race just because these other two are racing around them. But also for Jennifer, able to take advantage of it. Just again, a couple of extra car lengths through that sequence to now have a bit of an advantage and be able to make it one more time down the back straight into the bus stop without really any pressure. But I'm sure by the time they come around here the next time by, Caleb will be right back on her tail.
And that is such an amazing view. Watching there, 260 kilometers per hour going up through the S's there, and you can sense and you can feel the camber of those S's as they come through. But now as Lavender hits the curbing,
so fast.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't catch the speed when he went through there, but it was not slow.
just follow them around here for just a few moments and see as Lavender, get a couple of laps. Lavender had almost a half a second advantage on McDonald, but at least for the moment, looks like he's kind of content to sit back there, just a little bit off of her.
Maybe let his tires
win.
recover just a little bit.
Exactly.
And could be setting up for the pits because, again, these cars have about 30 minutes of fuel on board. We're
Right.
here at the 26-minute mark. He really thinks he's being held up. Wouldn't be a terrible idea to maybe try and undercut and get in for that pit stop.
Well, and not only that, Larry, and of course the pit lane here at Watkins Glen not nearly as long as, for example, the pit lane at Suzuka, but we already know how how taking
true.
a stop-and-go penalty can sometimes be an advantage for you.
You're very right on that. So maybe that's going through his head right now, is having been beaten by that very same example
right.
at Suzuka a few rounds back. Maybe he's got that through his head saying,
I can
maybe I
get
can
an
make this
extra
a
lap.
one stop now. Yeah. And it's also a pretty short, this isn't the longest track in the world. So
No.
even their pace lap wasn't ridiculous. This isn't exactly Spa. So perhaps he's thinking he can make this in a one-stopper. Got to probably make it to about that 36 minute, I would suspect, 37th minute to even have a shot at it.
All right, we're on board right now with Bobby Childs, driver the number 88 Ferrari. He is currently your leader in GT3 AM, running fourth of all the GT3 cars out there right now, and he's got a good size advantage right now over Steve Daniel, who is sitting about I believe about 9 seconds in arrears right now. Of course, Daniel had those early battles with Russ Ruddock and also Eduardo Lorente. Of course, Lorente having impacted the wall coming out of the bus stop, out of the inner loop here. But right now, as we're sitting on board with Steve Daniel, he's coming under attack by Julian Bell, starting to work his way back up through the field.
Yeah, Bell's been a pretty good job here after that spin that we saw him make. He's definitely recovering well to try and chase down the second spot in class. But watching these two, watching Jennifer McDonald, Caleb Lavender work their way through traffic is really just magic to watch them each carefully picking through and then watching the GT3 cars kind of looking over their shoulders each time one of these two comes flying by. It's pretty impressive. And for Jennifer, she's doing a fantastic job of not giving anything up, making sure she gets the clean pick through and forcing Caleb into bad traffic each time. So it's a very interesting little chess match to watch through the traffic between these two.
And a little bit further back from them, we were just watching, is Eduardo Lorente, who has rejoined. He's rejoined directly behind Jeff Jacobs. So it looks like it's going to be deja vu all over again for Eduardo Lorente as Andre Saunders now comes down the pit lane. He's going to head into the pits before Evan Peichel or Tony Kernan, for that matter, as that BMW, the number 72 machine, is going to take fuel, and that should be enough fuel to get him to the end of the race. We'll keep track of his pit times.
That is very interesting that he's going to pit this early. Often in these series, we see drivers waiting until they're basically out of fuel before they come in. To come in this early makes me think that maybe he's confident in his pace, and that perhaps he's thinking that if he's not stuck in the wash there behind Peichel, that maybe he can make a move later in the race. So very curious to watch what the pace looks like for Saunders when he comes back out.
Yeah, and we suspected that the GT3 cars could probably get somewhere along the lines of I guess somewhere around the lines of 28, maybe 29 laps on fuel. So again, very early in the pit window here, and wouldn't be surprised if some of his competitors, maybe Evan Peichel or Tony Kernan, stay out for another 7, 8, maybe 9 laps.
Yeah, and this will be very, very interesting to see when they do make that exchange. It's going to all come down to what kind of traffic is Peichel get stuck in, and what kind of traffic does Saunders get stuck in, and who can take advantage of it now that they're not nose to tail. That separation could either be there, or perhaps for Saunders, it's an opportunity to chip away and maybe come out in the lead. Is Peichel now with no gauge behind him of how classy he's doing? He's just got to go out there and lay down laps.
Yeah, definitely just put his head down, run fast laps. Now, a few moments ago, we were taking a look at Julian Bell in the 52 Porsche. He worked his way back up. He had that early spin. You'll notice he has gotten around Steve Daniel, so moved Julian Bell now up into second in GT3 AM. He's running fourth of all the GT cars at the moment. And you can see there Christian Eisler, our leader, trying to find his way through. Should be able to dispatch with these two cars fairly easily, if not on the front straight, probably by the time they go into the S's here.
Eisler not able to get both of them, so he's going to have to do it here on the back straight. But again, he's got a 21-second margin. He's got that opportunity. He can certainly hold for a corner and not push it too hard and cause any risk there to either himself or to Bell in front of him.
And look at this now, Caleb Lavender. He's picked up the pace just a little bit. He's closed down a little bit on Jennifer McDonald here as they now go through turn 1. And, you can see there as Lavender gets a little bit loose coming through the 90. Might have lost a tiny bit of ground, but this is where Lavender has been very strong, Larry, coming up through the S's here. Again, a little bit further back than I'm sure he'd like coming through there to affect the pass going into the bus stop. But, again, you can see he closed up maybe 4 car lengths between turn 1 and going into the bus stop.
Yeah, he's really quick through the bus stop. I don't think that's going to help him. He seems to be quick through probably turns 8 and 9. Again, not places that's going to help you. Where he does need to be quick, as you described, a couple of car lengths down that back straight going into the bus stop. That's going to help him if he can make sure that he gets prime braking into turn 1 and gets just the best run down that straight. If he can't, he's got to wait one more time around before he can try it again. But I suspect down here where we're come up to, this is another spot where he's just a little bit quicker here, but it doesn't do him any good because there's just nowhere to go with it.
Yeah, and Lavender just turned in the fastest lap of the race, a whole 0.03 of a second faster than Christian Eisler. And our leader, Christian Eisler, he is now in the pits for his first of what should be planned as 2 pit stops here this evening.
Yep, pretty sure it'll be 2, considering it's only the 32-minute mark, and he's got to go all the way to 75.
And now Jennifer McDonald and Caleb Lavender join Mr. Eisler for the party here in the pits.
Interesting for Lavender to not take the 1 extra lap that maybe he could have had with the fuel saving by doing the drive-through earlier. It would have separated himself from Jennifer, even for just that 1 lap. But instead, we'll see how they come out at the end of this fuel stop.
Yeah, and it'll all come down to how much they fill this time by, and we may see slightly different strategies
like we
here.
saw last time out. Yeah, that definitely could be a thing here. Certainly for Lavender, it's got to be going through your head to say, maybe I'll just short fill, get out of here in front of Jennifer, lay down some flyers, come back in 15 minutes, and then fiddle up to the finish. He could be thinking something like that.
Yeah, just go with 2 very light fuel loads, and we'll take a look here as both of them are still on the pit lane. Again, our leader, Christian Eisler, came into the pits about 10 seconds ahead of both of these drivers, and there you go. Caleb Lavender, first driver of the pair, out back on track, still waiting for Jennifer McDonald, and she is now back well, she's not back underway yet. She's taken a lot of fuel here, and obviously very different strategies between Lavender and McDonald.
I suspect there's something up with Jennifer because she's been stopped for a minute right now, which is twice as long than either Eisler or Lavender. So a little worried that perhaps Jennifer may have had some other issue. It is sim racing. They may have gotten a phone call and may have had, important work business something came up. But hey, she's underway now.
There she is. She's back underway.
Yeah. Little because maybe she had some other quick emergency that she had to take care of, but
or didn't get her settings set for fuel before she came into the pit stop. I mean, we've heard of that issue before. I think Arthur Chan talked about it at the last season's opener at Daytona. So we'll see here, but yeah, she was in her pit box for 1:05 versus 29 seconds and 30 seconds. For Eisler and Lavender, so that's definitely going to be a disadvantage. All right, Larry, now that our LMP2 drivers have all come into the pits and gone through their first pit stops, we would suspect that Evan Pike will be coming in soon as well. Why don't we take a quick break and pay some bills, thank some sponsors, and then come back to see the conclusion here of the Ricmotech World Challenge from Watkins Glen. You are watching the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech World Challenge presented by Performa Texas Elite Graphics, and we'll be back with you in just a few moments.
Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name brand parts. Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com. Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
All right, and we're back here at Watkins Glen International for round number 5 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech World Challenge presented by Performa Texas Elite Graphics. I'm Greg Ginsberg along with Larry Lefty McLeod. And Larry, we're on board right now. We're watching our GT leader, Evan Peichel, who has not taken his pit stop yet, but now we can see there Tony Kernan in the number 7 Porsche, who was running in 3rd. He has headed into the pits, as has now Russ Ruddick as well. So some of those GT3 drivers, or more of those GT3 drivers, starting to make their way in for their single pit stop this evening.
Yeah, so the one I'm really waiting for, obviously, is the Peichel stop. The leader, is there we get a good shot of him. As we had already seen his chief rival, Andre Saunders, take the early stop. So I'm very curious when Peichel does finally come in and where they come out. Just to give an idea, Saunders right now is last time by 202. So I'm curious what's going on there with Saunders. But for Peichel, still clicking out the 145 lap time. So he is just motoring along, turning lap after lap, just trying to pull ahead to make sure that fuel stop is clean and clear, and he can come out back in the lead right where he enters.
All right, and Bobby Childs had been running and made his way back up to 2nd in GT3 Pro, but he is now in the pits. Let's go take a look. I think we've got a replay here, Larry, as coming down into the bus stop chicane. Getting a little.
That's a heavy
Did
hit.
we not see the exact same thing just a few moments ago?
What is it with Ferraris going into that wall and that corner tonight?
Yeah, so that was unfortunate for Bobby Childs. Certainly not a planned pit stop.
If I'm Steve Daniel and I'm in a Ferrari, I'm thinking I'm going to go a little bit more delicate for the bus stop, I think, after seeing 2 of them wiped out through there.
That's right. Well, and he had a bird's eye view of the first one when Lorente went in. And speaking of which, it looks like Steve Daniel is going to come into the pits now for his first and likely only pit stop of the evening, unless he has some trouble with the bus stop there. So the 96 now heading down the pit lane.
You're trying to throw the old commentator jinx on him.
you know, we spent so much time talking about how easy it should be for the LMP2 cars to make their way through GT3 traffic here at the Glen, and within like 20 seconds we saw 2 incidents of both of the classes getting together. But by the way, if you like this this biting commentary here this evening from Larry and I, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe to Apex Racing TV for all of the best in virtual racing here on the interwebs. And once you do that, of course, click on that notification bell so you can find out about all the great events that we have seemingly every single day, 24/7 from around the globe on Apex Racing TV. You'll be glad you did. Here as we jump back now to Christian Eisler, our overall leader, as he is now trying to put down some fast laps. And you know that car is looking awfully loose, Larry. They put some fuel in there, obviously still with the original tires on that car, and Eisler seems to be struggling there just a little bit.
He's certainly throwing it around. I think what he's just doing, he's looking at that gap, and I know it's 20 seconds or so to Lavender, but he has not been able to extend it. You think they came into the pits about 20 seconds apart. Lavender is still 20 seconds back. So I'm sure he's watching that and knows he's got to continue to work. There's no easing up. There's still another, 35 or so minutes to go.
Yeah, especially if Lavender short-filled that last stop and is on a lighter fuel load, he may start turning in some very fast times.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he is. Their actual pit stopped time between Eisler and Lavender, which is compared to these two, was in fact right at 30 seconds, give or take a few hundredths between the two of them. So very similar strategies. 30 seconds seems like it was probably a full fuel load. Obviously no tires. We didn't see him go up on the jacks. So I think these two could be on comparable strategies going into the last half of this race.
All right, now one driver that has not gone into the pits yet was just ahead of Christian Eisler there, Evan Peichel. We're going to continue to wait there. We think that the GT3 cars probably can get somewhere around 29 to 30 laps on a full tank of fuel here, so maybe another lap or two for that geodesic entry here as Christian Eisler heads past our GT3 leader. And I think we were looking at Lavender a few moments ago. Lavender losing a little bit of ground actually to Eisler the last couple of laps. Eisler putting in some very quick laps, about a second faster than Lavender, 9/10 to a second faster than Lavender the last couple times by.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had said the car looked a little bit loose for Eisler. Maybe loose is fast, and that's the setup he likes, to go out there and run qualifying pace. And right now that seems to be what he's doing. Running in the 33s, which is pretty solid considering this is the heavy fuel load plus worn tires. To be out there running 133s is pretty quick. Whereas Lavender also in the 33s, but just a couple tenths slower for his, as we got a shot of Julian Bell.
And I should add that Julian Bell, who's up to second now, of all of our GT3 cars, he's in the lead in the AM category. He had that early spin, but he also has not taken a pit stop as of yet. We're going to have to watch where he comes out compared to Steve Daniel, but he's got a pretty good advantage on track right now over Steve Daniel. That
he does.
He might be safe. He's really put his head down since that early spin.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the gap is to Daniels, but I think it is a pretty significant. Anything more than probably about 40 seconds or so might be enough. So right now it looks like it's about 47 seconds. So he might have enough to be able to do the stop and go without losing the positions. There's Daniel right now coming out onto the front straight just past pit entry.
And remember, Daniel has taken his first and likely only pit stop of the evening. And here we go, back to Evan Peichel, driver of the number 263 BMW, our winner in the last round. Let's see if he continues to stay out or if he's going to bring that car in for his pit stop. Looks like he's going to take at least another lap at speed here, Larry, as again we're kind of hitting the what we consider to be the upper limits of
right
the
lap 30.
the fuel range for these cars.
It's lap 30 for the LMP2 cars, and he's 3 laps down, so it's really only lap 27 or 26 even for him.
True.
Yeah, so he does have a few more laps to go on his own potential fuel load. Lavender not going anywhere in terms of that lead either. 20.8 seconds. He's taking a little bit out. There he is. Coming up onto Mr. Peichel.
And of course, we saw Eisler get past Peichel, last lap. So yeah, it's still margin about. And Lavender's taken a small chunk out of it, maybe a second to a second and a half, but still almost 19 seconds in arrears. Right now, he's got a long way to go. He's got to talk about driving with a little faith there. That Mr. Eisler has some issues further on up the road. Let's take a look here as we're on board now with Jeff Jacobs, who is back underway after he had some issues a little bit earlier this evening, sitting right back behind Russ Ruddock. Jacobs right now running 4th in Pro. He'd certainly like to get around the Lamborghini of Ruddock and Mr. Daniels' Ferrari, so he can maybe bring the battle to Andre Saunders here. And let's take a look. There's Mr. Saunders in the 72 machine, running second right now. Actually, I take that back. He's running third right now in GT3 Pro, as Tony Kernan in the number 7 Porsche has moved up in second here. And looks like Kernan has taken a pit stop. So now,
well, that's
Julian
interesting
Bell,
now, isn't it? Because we had seen Saunders do that early stop, and he was on the tail of Peichel.
Right.
Saunders' stop, his stop time is about 34 seconds. Tony Kernan's only about 21. So I'm wondering if Saunders took tires in his stop.
That is certainly a possibility, and that would explain the gap now. Very large difference between those two, as you mentioned, about 24 seconds separating them here. And again, Peichel, I believe, both Peichel and Bell, our 2 GT3 leaders, both in Pro and AM, both have not taken their pit stops as of yet. Let's see what the number 7 car does here. Tony Kernan, of course, he's already taken a pit stop.
Is they're completing probably lap 27 for him, so it could be a couple more laps still, considering the projected amount of fuel these guys would carry on board. Same thing for Peichel. Put up on the back of
Steve Daniel, looks like. Or no, I'm sorry, that's Lorente.
Yeah, he's got his Ferrari repaired, and he's back out there after a 3-minute pit stop. Going to chase down any kind of points he can collect tonight.
Yeah, remember Eduardo Lorente came into the evening here as your points leader in GT3 AM, had a 12-point advantage over Bobby Childs. So certainly a lot at stake here.
Yeah, big
but
opportunity.
Bobby Childs, of course, with his issues this evening, not likely that he's going to rejoin the fray.
Yeah, no, it's a big night opportunity here for Daniel, who came into tonight 3rd in points, and for Julian Bell, came in tonight in 4th. Those two guys driving very well tonight, currently in 1st and 2nd in this class. Big opportunities now to collect.
There we go, and Julian Bell now coming. It looks like he's going to be coming into the pits for his planned pit stop.
We'll see if he can hold that over the aforementioned Mr. Daniel before he comes out of this pit stop. Michael's probably be coming in soon as the leader in the pro class. There is Steve Daniel, chief rival there in the AM class.
And he is, and you can see here, he's just now coming out of turn 8, coming through the heel of the boot and coming up to turn 9, as Bell still in his pit stall.
The damaged Ferrari of Bobby Childs there behind him. I don't think
there
that
you go. Bell back underway. Oh, and this is going to be close, Larry, as we have now Steve Daniel making his way out of turn 11.
So now I'm wondering what happened if Saunders did take tires, because everyone else's stop in this class has been right around that 20-second mark, except for Saunders' 34-second stop. So it does look like Julian Bell, who also was about 21 seconds, is able to hold down his position in the lead in the AM class. As now your leader in the pros, leader of all the GT3s, Evan Peichel, in for his stop.
And as he came in, he had somewhere north of almost a full minute advantage over Tony Kernan, running second in class. And there's Tony in the number 7 machine making his way through turn 8 to the heel of the boot, and we'll see where he comes out. But given the length of most of these pit stops, assuming Peichel also puts in that 21-22 second range, and there you go, Peichel with a 19.67 second rest in the pit box there. A little bit less fuel than obviously some of the drivers that pitted earlier, and he's back underway. He's going to maintain that advantage over Tony Kernan.
Yeah, solid work there for Evan to get in and out of the pits very efficiently, both through the pit lane and also a nice, conveniently quick stop as he lets the race leader, Kristen Eisler, on by. So there are your two of the 3 class leaders right there at Eisler and Peichel. Swapping spots there into the inner loop and now the outer loop. One of the things about coming out of the pits here, it dumps you right into, the exit of 1 there, and you got to climb that hill. And on full fuel, a little bit cool tires, you got to go through that inner loop and outer loop, the bus stop, and then the outer sweep.
You wish you'd get to that complex towards the end of the lap and not.
You got to get your bearings
right
straight
afterwards.
pretty fast. We're on board here with Evan going through the toe. Good shot of a hill. How steep these hills are around here.
Yeah, it's really deceptive that the toe of the boot really just it sucks you in, and that is the most heavily cambered, but it is a very steep climb. And once you get the car straightened out and out of the corner, you then still have another quick rise before you drop back down into the heel of the boot over by turn 8. And it really makes the braking for that corner very challenging because you have the rear of the car unloaded usually going into that corner. And if you're under attack by another driver, if he thinks he's going to try and shove the car underneath you going into 8, it can really make for some tricky braking here as we're back with Evan Peichel going down into turn 1 and with an advantage now over his closest competitor, Tony Kernan. It looks to be somewhere along the lines of about 45 seconds, I believe.
Yeah, that's pretty substantial there for Peichel to be able to be kind of put it in cruise now for the next 23 minutes and bring this thing home as we get a good shot now of Jeff Jacobs and Russ Ruddock, Lamborghini and the Mercedes battling it out.
Yeah, Ruddock looking to hold on to his third spot in GT3 AM. Jeff Jacobs sitting right off the podium, 4th position right now in Pro, but he would have to get past both Ruddock and also Steve Daniel, who is running 2nd in his Ferrari, just to get up to Andre Saunders. And it is about 35 seconds, I think, up the road to Saunders.
And Saunders, I am wondering if he did put on new tires. He is turning laps faster than anybody else in the GT3s right now. Last time was a mid 45. Everyone else is in the 46s or even 47s in the class. So may have been an interesting attempt to try a nice little trick to see if maybe the fresh tires would help him out. But, with 20-some minutes to go, I don't know that there's going to be enough time for him to have those fresh tires really do what they need to do.
Yeah, it'd be a little difficult. He's got Julian Bell, who's our AM category leader, about 2.5 seconds up ahead, and I think you just saw him there in the shot. But Tony Kernan, currently running 2nd in Pro, is another 22, 23 seconds up the road. So again, with knocking off maybe a second per lap, and maybe that increases a little bit as the other drivers' tires go away, maybe a little bit more towards the end of the race. It would still be a real difficult proposition there in order to move up to the 2nd spot on the podium.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But watching this Jeff Jacobs battle here, I'm wondering if Jeff, a couple spots isn't as quick, like maybe coming out of the bus stop, not as quick as Russ, but maybe here in the last sector here, maybe he's a little bit quicker, but he's got to get close, got to make this on by. Like I said, probably not much of a chance to catch Andre out in front of him, but certainly would like to maybe get on by Russ and set his own laps out in front of it if he can. Russ looking pretty solid though.
Yeah, he's good run for him tonight.
Yeah, just solid. Not using a lot of curbs, relatively conservative lines. Long race, doesn't want to make those big mistakes that tend to destroy cars, like a couple of Ferraris. But just trying to stay nice, conservative. Paint the left tires on that white line. Nice little braking, turning across, just about a little bit of tire on the curb in the inside, and get a good run through here. Just solid driving. A shot on board going up to those S's. You can see you just can't see the exit of them. They just sort of go on forever.
Yeah, they go on for but the one thing you can't tell from that shot there, Larry, is how much of a load it puts on the outside tires in each one of those corners. I mean, it looks as though it's just a nice little drive in the park or a walk in the park there, but really very, very difficult to keep the rear end of that car from moving out on you, especially as you come up to the very last right-hander onto the back straight. A lot of opportunity for those cars to get loose. All right, let's take a look here, Larry, at our leader in the AM category, Julian Bell, as he goes down into the bus stop. And Drift King Julian there comes to a complete stop, pulls off right in front of Andre Saunders. It looks like got out of Saunders' way just in time. But Bell, as he rejoins, he's lost a lot of his advantage to Steve Daniel, but maintains that lead in the AM category, at least for the moment. But Steve Daniel now only about 2.5 seconds back. And there he is in the Ferrari, making up a lot of ground.
Drift King Julian, I didn't realize that he was from Madagascar, but perhaps, from parts unknown for Julian Bell. And if you don't get that reference, Greg, you got to watch more kids' movies.
Yeah, apparently I do.
All right. So I'll tell you what, why don't we bring someone in here and have a little chat. We've got Bobby Childs here with us, and Bobby, you had a pretty abrupt end to this race. Walk me through how that bus stop was treating you tonight.
It was treating me about like my ex-wife. It was vicious, rude, and cruel to me. And I'm in pain.
Did you come out with half, Bobby?
Half a car. I got a question for you in the vein of legendary Chicago Cubs broadcaster Harry Carey. Hi. If you had a Ferrari and you were racing for a championship, would you wreck yourself? I know I would. I'd have a chili dog and a tall, cool Budweiser behind the medical tent. Oh,
well,
yeah.
Now you are watching this
Self-inflicted
race from the
completely.
bleachers, so.
Yes, and I'm watching Julian Bell, man. Like, I was so excited to have such a good race with Julian, and he was so fast right at the start, and he was just pulling away from me a little bit by little bit. And then he had that lazy loop, and I said, okay, now it's on. Now I can gain some points. And then you saw what happened in the bus stop there, man. And it's such a shame because my teammate Caleb worked with me so much to get me ready for this race and to help with the setup. And we felt so ready and so prepared. And then just to do it to ourselves again, just like we did at Suzuka, it's I got to break this trend somehow.
Yeah, I tell you, it's been a tough night for the Ferraris. Eduardo Lorente did almost the exact same thing that you did there. In fact, yours might have been a little bit more violent than his was, but pretty much the same patch of barrier that you guys slammed into. And we're just hoping Steve Daniel doesn't make it 3 for 3.
Oh, no, we need one of the Ferraris to live out there. And like you guys said, I'm now watching from the bleachers, and I saw Julian have another little issue, and I had been watching him slowly catch back up to me, and I'm just sitting here thinking, man, if I'd have stayed on track, that would have given me just that little bit of buffer, and I'd had a good points night. But
well, we got a great in your part of the track. We have an attempted a pass here with Jeff Jacobs trying to get around Russ Ruddock. Had the alongside move, thought he was going to make the inside dive in going into the bus stop. Doesn't make it stick, ends up backing out of it, and that's actually what happened to Eduardo Lorente and his Ferrari that damaged there. He tried that and stayed out there and found out the outside of the bus stop is a pretty rough line, and he ended up in the barrier. Jeff Jacobs backing off a little bit earlier to try and save the car for the finish.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping the rumors are true about what's coming for the Merc. I don't want to go any further than that, but you can see a little bit that Merc's still got good pace, but it's missing just that little bit it needs to really compete with these more modern GT3 cars.
Yeah, well, I know there's a big Mercedes coming into the platform soon, but I don't think they're going to let that one in the GT3 race. The Mercedes F1 car that's going to be modeled.
No, we don't need that. We don't need Jeff passing the P2s.
We'll save that for another series, maybe down the road. For now, we'll leave this Merc, this AMG here in the GT3 ranks.
Oh yeah, man, and I'm really hoping the iRacing's done a great job with the GT3s, man. It's so much better to drive here than before. In the GT3 class, we're not having to struggle with the BOP. The cars seem really balanced. It's all really seems to be coming down to setting the car up, to getting ready for the track, and getting what you can out of the vehicle rather than, seeing one car just be, overly dominant. And it's really, really nice to see. They've really done a great job with the class.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So the BMWs had their struggles. They're now at least a reasonable right in the mix. The Porsche seems to be always pretty solid. And as you've shown, the new Ferrari is a pretty good landing right there in the middle of this mix as well. So it is a really good fit the way they've been able to run these out with the whole plethora of these. And, as we continue to grow, and hopefully there will be new GT3 cars coming in, because I think it is one of the best classes in the whole platform.
All right, Larry, real quick, let me jump in here because as you speak about the GT3 Evo Ferrari, Steve Daniel now, number 96 entry, he is your new leader in GT3 AM. He has gotten around Julian Bell and has put about 8 car lengths between he and the Porsche here as the clock is starting to wind down. We're under 15 minutes remaining. And here, let's take a look at a replay, Larry. And Mr. Child, to see exactly what happened as they went down into the boot, and look at that, the rear end steps around on Julian Bell once again, going into turn 7, and our new leader, Steve Daniel, drives right on by.
Boy, Julian is he's managed to spin or slide that car in just about every corner he can tonight. But not out of this yet. I mean, you think about it, he's not that far behind, a couple seconds back, unless he's taken on some damage, which perhaps he has. So maybe he can put the pace together and gather it back up and make a push back up to the front there for Steve Daniel to make a run at Steve Daniel. But here we've got Jennifer McDonald now, the first of the LMP2s to come in for the second stop. We'll see if this is a little quicker than her first stop that was on the verge of a full minute. And there's Bobby's poor car parked behind her.
Hey man, quit making fun of my car.
It's sad. It's sad to see. Its lights are still on though.
But it's a steady sight. It's always there, right?
Your lights
lights are on.
Your lights are
lose
on.
the battery after all this too.
With the driver of the folded in half Ferrari, let you know your lights are on.
That's a electronics issue I can't get past. I can't find the
British
the
cars, Italian cars. It's a common theme, Larry.
Yeah, there's a remote you're supposed to have to cut that off, and I lost it in my couch cushions.
Either that, or it's a $30,000 option. One of the two.
Oh yeah, man, I gotta save a buck somewhere,
That's right.
maybe
a better divorce attorney.
Perhaps, yeah.
I mean, I got my Wavos back, so that's all I really cared about. I'm fine with everything else that happened.
All right, we're.
I'm no longer gilded.
Oh God. Oh my God.
Well, Bobby, apparently you might want to go get the medical team to check you out. You may still have some lagging things, perhaps.
I think I have a concussion.
Maybe a concussion happening there. You might want to have checked out.
Hey, CTE is real in sim racing, guys.
we do appreciate you joining us here. Unfortunately, the circumstances weren't always the best, but it's always fun to have you here, Bobby.
I love being able to drop in here, even though it's not under the best circumstances. Real quick shout out to Chris at Skull Sim Gear, Chris at Proforma Elite Texas Graphics. Of course, a huge shout out to my teammates who were so amazing trying to get me ready here. And a big shout to Stubby and Goodbye Pork Pie, who decided to jump in here tonight from the Jardier community. Jardier's moving over here, doing a lot more iRacing now, even though he's a huge ACC guy. That tells you how much iRacing's coming along, that he's starting to come back over here and race here more. So we're glad to see that. Glad to see Stubby's out in the chat tonight. And again, thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast.
All right, well, we're going to watch the lead change hands here as Julian Bell is right there on the back of Steve Daniels. Thanks, Bobby, for joining us. And you wanted to catch a glimpse of this battle. It's going to be a good one to the finish.
And forward.
All right, there you go. Bobby Childs, driver of the number 88 D2D E-Racing Ferrari. Hope he gets better soon, as we were watching them come out of turn number 9 now, Larry, as it is indeed Steve Daniel trying to hold off Julian Bell. Julian Bell making I think, what would this be, the third recovery drive of the
yes,
evening for him?
Is, yeah. And for Bobby, yes, I didn't realize that we had a concussion protocol here in the Ricmotech series like it's an NFL game. But for Bobby, I hope he feels better soon. But Julian Bell, yes, what a recovery. This would be number 3 for him, as he had the spin early on by the pits, the second big King Julian drift, and then he had the third one going down through the laces of the boot. But he's not out of it yet, as he's still making a run at that Ferrari of Steve Daniel out in front of him. And I cringe every time I see a Ferrari go through the bus stop tonight now.
Well, just close your eyes, Larry, here as Julian Bell stays in line, does not poke his nose in this time by.
Uh-oh.
Well, let's take a look here as we just had Tony Kernan up on screen here for a moment. Kernan running second in pro.
That's a big back into the wall right there in the Porsche.
Yeah, that's coming out of turn 11 onto the front straight. Hey, look, there's another 97 hundredths of a second pit stop. And he's back underway as we jump back to live action now with the Ferrari of Steve Daniel, the number 96 machine, and Julian Bell in his number 52 Porsche as they come over that rise over to turn 8 that we were talking about earlier, the heel of the boot. And we're going to see, we'll see now the last lap by Larry. Bell had a great run coming out of turn 1, couldn't really do anything with it. And looked as though he might have lost pace going up through the S's, as if he might have checked up a little bit on the Ferrari.
Yeah.
But you can see here this time by, he's all over the back of that car.
There's something to this place. There's something to this place about timing your run off of 1. I think we're queuing up a replay here of an Andre Saunders issue, who was in the top mix here in the GT3 Pro as he catches a bit too much curb in the toe.
Yeah. Over at the toe of the boot, gets over onto the curb, rear end comes around. He was running third.
Still is.
In pro, still is, but has lost a lot of ground to Tony Kernan.
So watching this, the timing off of 1, if you're going to get the draft pass going up the S's, if you catch too early, like here, you have to back out, you lose your momentum. Yeah. And so for Bell, he wants to not lose the momentum and carry it around all the way up, and he might have finally timed it right this time.
Yeah, it looks like he got it right. You notice he had to back out about halfway up, but now under braking as they go into the bus stop, and Bell makes it look somewhat easy there.
That was definitely not easy. He had to outbrake him. As Kristen Eisler, the race leader, is in for his second stop of the night. This pretty much should be a splash and go, and it is. Pit time of 8.6 seconds. Very, very short, just enough fuel to go the next 7 minutes.
All right, so we're back on board now with our GT3 AM category leaders. Julian Bell having just gotten around Steve Daniel to get promoted back to the lead. And, you know, we've seen Bell run at a pretty good clip here. Both these drivers, though, the last couple of laps have been running very similar lap times. Fastest lap for either one within about 200 or probably 0.2 of a second of one another. And here we throw it up on screen. You can see exactly what Bell and Daniel had run for the last 5 laps or so. Again, very, very close, except for that lap 35. You can see there 0.9 of a second to the plus of Bell. So he had made up a lot of ground in just one lap. The previous lap there was the lap that Bell had spun.
So Bell now has to think, okay, look, I got to get around this place about 3 more times without spinning, having spun now 3 times, and still finds himself with an opportunity to win his class in this race. Shows you that the outright raw speed that he does have.
And this is where he had been very strong compared to the Ferrari. Again, had to check up a number of times, but goes onto the back straight with about a 3-car length advantage. Definitely not quote close enough for Steve Daniel to make an attempt at a pass there. And he's got Jennifer McDonald now sneaking up. McDonald's probably going to have to do the little bob and weave to get around both of these GT3 cars. And let's see if that complicates things a little bit for Mr. Daniel.
Well, I think she's being generous to not throw Julian Bell completely off. And there she goes. Takes now down to the left side of the track, going out into turn 7.
And
that worked out pretty well.
She's worked very well with traffic so far this evening.
Yeah, she definitely has. She's been patient in the right places. And again, if it wasn't for that extremely long pit stop, who knows how this would have gone, as she was really good at holding off Kel Lavender there through that end of that first fuel stint. Is the lead in the GT-AMs. Julian Bell not pulling away from Steve Daniel. Perhaps Julian taking it a little bit more conservative in a couple spots to try to make sure he doesn't make that big mistake as we're coming up onto the about the 71st minute here of the 75-minute race.
Ooh, and very, very close to the wall there for Julian Bell. Of course, he had that one spin already over at turn 11. Gathers it back up and continues on, but looks like Steve Daniel able to pick up a little bit of ground there as we jump back over to Evan Peichel. He is our GT3 Pro leader, and currently working a 35-second advantage over Tony Kernan's number 7 Kernan Motorsports Porsche.
Yeah, Evan doing a very good job. Once the early stop there for Saunders kind of allowed him to relax a little bit, he's just been putting in lap after lap, just solid times, and not really pressured. His pit stop was genuinely perfect, and he's just been able to continue to motor on there, hoping to get the victory in the pro class. As here in the AM ranks, Julian Bell has been Mr. Danny Sullivan's spin to win tonight. He's spun 3 times, somehow still finding himself in the lead now with about 2.5 minutes to go in this race, or about 3 minutes to go.
About 3 minutes, so looking at
a couple laps here.
Yeah, another two laps or so.
Kind of depends on where Kristen Eisler is at this point, as he is the race leader. He'll decide how many laps we get.
That's right.
But I did notice that Lavender, had that issue, had that penalty he had to serve at the drive-thru, which he was about 22 seconds back. When he served that penalty, he's now 15 seconds back. Lavender has definitely been the quicker car of the race, but that penalty has certainly hurt him, and going to hurt him in the overall points.
And you can see there he knocked off about a second last lap, but big.
It's been fast.
Yeah, he's been very, very quick. Just unfortunately, dealt a difficult hand here this evening, and hasn't been able to make up the ground on Eisler that he's needed. But this is something that we've seen, Larry. It seems to have affected all of our LMP2 drivers over the course of the season. Of course, Eisler had the very difficult run a couple of weeks ago as well.
Well, as Bobby said, he had said shout out to his teammate Caleb for helping him with the setup this week, giving us some tips. I think Caleb has nailed it. I think he's really got a solid car, but just unfortunately that penalty really seems to be hurting him. Otherwise, he would have had a pretty good shot in this race. And for Eisler, he's just been Mr. Consistency. You think about the last couple of races. If it wasn't for that curbing there at Road America, Eisler would be on quite a run here in this series.
All right, let's take a look now. Speaking of Christian Eisler, our leader, he's coming up right on the back of this battle for the lead in GT3 AM. And Larry, we said it all depended on where Mr. Eisler was, on how many more laps we were going to get.
I think we're going to get one more.
Yeah, probably one more with 1.5 minutes left before we hit that 75-minute mark. And I think the LMP2 entry of Mr. Eisler,
I think this is going to be one more time on by for Christian as he's rounding his way through the heel and back out onto the old track. He's got Andre Saunders now out in front of him.
Here we go. In the Punto Cielo Racing entry of Eisler does come around turns 10 and heading over to 11, and indeed going to have about 50 seconds before we hit that 75-minute mark. So we're going to have one more lap to go. White flag in the air for Christian Eisler with about a 15-second advantage now over Caleb Lavender. Jennifer McDonald another 45, or about another 45 seconds back from there.
And for Eisler, if he's able to hang on and win here, this will be, I believe, his third win now in the 5 rounds. And he was leading at Road America when he had that incident. So he's just been nothing but solid here in this series. He's a tough one to really compete with. Lavender seems to have been the quicker car on lap times tonight. But if it wasn't for that penalty, imagine where he would be. So that battle still is going to wage on with 3 more rounds to go. I would not say it's over yet between these two.
Yeah, it could have been a very, very different race here this evening. Without that penalty, but that's what happens. You got to play nice with your GT3 brethren out here, and Christian Eisler now coming through the heel of the boot. Only 3 more corners remain in this 75-minute run to the checker for Christian Eisler, our leader in LMP2, and his Delora 2 and 7, and as he makes his way through now. With a 16.5-second advantage over Caleb Lavender. Coming onto the front straight now and taking the win tonight here from Watkins Glen in the Ricmotech World Challenge, Christian Eisler, of Punto Cielo Racing. Congratulations to him as we now check our next race. And I think, Larry, next cars that will probably be coming through, indeed, as we see here, going to be our leader in GT3 Pro, Evan Peichel, as he makes his way through the heel of the boot. Andre Saunders in the 72 machine, he did cross the stripe. He's going to come home third. But the battle in GT3 AM, Julian Bell, he crosses the stripe. He's going to take the win over Steve Daniel. Margin of victory, 1.5 seconds there. So a great run for him. And here comes Evan Peichel. 2 more. Now 1 more corner remaining for our GT3 Pro leader. Not a leader no longer. Now your winner in the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing BMW. Coming in second is going to be Tony Kernan in the number 7 machine, the Kernan Motorsports Porsche, as he now has just a few more corners remaining here at Watkins Glen.
Yep, he had just, for him, he's got to make it all the way around because he was right in front of Kristen Eisler when Kristen came across to take that checker flag. He's got to go around.
A whole lap to go. There we go, 1 more corner. And coming onto the front straight there, there he is, Tony Kernan. He's going to come in second tonight in GT3 Pro. Andre Saunders had already crossed the stripe, taking the last step on the podium. Jeff Jacobs will finish in 4th with Travis Schwenke, unfortunately, out early in his Orion Racing machine. He will finish in 5th in GT3 Pro. In the AM category, again, Julian Bell will take the win. Finishing second is Steve Daniel. Russ Ruddick will come home third in the number 95 Lamborghini. Congratulations to Russ. Eduardo Lorente will limp his Ferrari home in 4th. Bobby Childs, thanks for joining us on board. Jeff, get well soon. He will finish in 5th. Pardon me, Bobby, get well soon. Will finish in 5th. And then that should wrap things up. Actually, let's run down here. I think we mentioned Eisler taking the win in LMP2. Lavender second. Jennifer McDonald finishing 3rd. And Chris Thorman out early with that pretty horrendous crash coming through the outer loop. He will finish 4th in LMP2. All right. So, Larry, let's we've got our drivers here getting out of their cars, going to cool down just a little bit. That will give us some time to take another quick break and thank our sponsors. And when we come back, we'll bring some of our podium finishers in and get their thoughts on tonight's evening from Watkins Glen. We'll be right back in just a moment. You've just witnessed the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech World Challenge round number 5 from Watkins Glen, and we'll be right back.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, ricmotech.com.
All right, and we are back here from Watkins Glen International. We've just witnessed round number 5 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech World Challenge presented by Performa Texas Elite Graphics. I'm Greg Ginsberg along with Larry Lefty McLeod. And Larry, again, just to quickly recap here, Christian Eisler taking the win tonight in his prototype car, his LMP2 car, the Punto CL Racing entry, 17 seconds the advantage over Caleb Lavender, his D2D E-Racing entry. Jennifer McDonald finishing third in her BTL Motorsports entry. In GT3 Pro, Evan Peichel taking the win in his Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing BMW with Tony Kernan taking second place, second step on the podium in his Kernan Motorsports Porsche. And then Andre Saunders in the Mohawk Racing BMW comes home third. In GT3 AM, Julian Bell in his Graphite Racing Porsche takes the win with Steve Daniels in the SKKJ Racing Ferrari. Second, Russ Ruddock, the Flying Tortoise Motorsports Lamborghini comes home on the last step of the podium in GT3 AM. All right, so tell you what, Larry, we've got a couple of our winners standing by right now. Why don't we bring in Julian Bell? Actually, you know what? Before we do that, why don't we bring in... Yes, let's bring in the number 52 of Julian Bell taking the win tonight in GT3 AM.
All right, we are joined by GT3 AM's winner, Julian Bell. And Julian, I got to ask, how do you spin 3 times on this track and still come out with a victory at a night like this?
Yeah, I mean, at least I was able to catch up. I'm sure there was a good few ones on there that you guys saw that I'll watch back. But yeah, fortunately the pace was there today. I've switched back to triples, which seems to be helping instead of VR, albeit my first race. And, granted, I know Watkins pretty well too, seemed to have typically decent pace on it. So yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely had the pace there. Although at the end there, Steve Daniels certainly held you off for quite a while. Once you got on by, were you at that point just trying to be a little conservative and make it to the finish?
Definitely. I was also, I guess, like trying to wrangle the car the whole race. I had a last minute setup that I used, and I had to tinker with a bit, and so uh, that definitely contributed to one of the spins. And then there was a lot of oh shoot moments throughout the race where there was almost even more spins that I had to manage. So I definitely couldn't let up too much, just trying to dial in on that. But he definitely did a good job at the same time to keep pressuring me to stay focused. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, from that it was solid, and a lot of those spins around this place to hit, tap into the tire barriers or to spin out and not completely destroy a car in half like we had seen in a few of your competitors there tonight was it's probably a skill in itself. But to come away with a victory and get those much needed points probably has you feeling pretty good here at the stage of the season.
Absolutely. And they kind of, fortunate for me and unfortunate for them. I mean, obviously, I'd rather be competing with them, but hopefully this will bring me up in the standings again after a couple poor races of my own, kind of similar situations that they had today, both Eduardo and Bobby. So yeah, we'll see kind of what the standings are like afterwards, and I'd say good overall position kind of heading into the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, should be pretty good and solid for you. A great way to get a max amount of points here tonight with Eduardo and Bobby suffering those incidents. But for that, you get the victory. And is there anybody tonight you'd like to thank for getting you along the way?
Yeah, thank you guys for the broadcast. Thank the admins. Thank padded chairs because I don't have one right now, and I'm sore to say the least.
It's like a real race car.
yeah, bumps and everything. Shoulder braces, and yeah, that's it for tonight, I think.
All right. Well, congratulations, Julian, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing you in the next round.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, there you go. Julian Bell, driver of the 52 Graphite Racing Porsche. And Larry, now we're going to bring in Steve Daniel, finished second tonight in GT3 AM, driver of the number 96 SKKJ Racing Ferrari.
Steve Daniel, the man driving the lone Ferrari left at the end of that race. Steve, walk me through some of the battles you had there with Julian Bell as the race was winding down.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun. I think I'm not sure if Julian was getting bored because he'd spin out a few times and let me catch up, and then he'd go right past me again, but it was fun.
Yeah, it definitely looked like it. No, we just talked to him. He said he was having a bit of a handful of a car, but certainly as you guys were close into that race, you were doing a pretty good job of holding him off and holding your line solid. What's it like to be on this track? Is this a tough place to pass? Is it tough as to see it as it really is to drive?
Actually, I really enjoy this track. I think this is one of those easier ones where there's a lot of good passing spots, and this is a great group who I think they really know how to do some side-by-side racing.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I love watching these races each week and get the call for them, is because the side by side racing can be so good. It's so much respectful driving that seems to be happening between you guys. But tonight, from the points battle perspective, with the issues there, suffering to Eduardo and of course to Bobby, you even actually had a pretty good bird's eye view there of Eduardo's crash. Good opportunity to pick up those points here, getting a second place finish tonight.
Yeah, they had some pretty good qualifying times, so I was a little bit surprised, but I always just try to keep it clean and make sure I finish at the end, and it seems to work out okay.
Yeah, for sure. And that podium finish tonight's got to feel pretty good. So congratulations on that, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing you at VIR in a couple weeks.
All right, thanks for everything Apex Racing does.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, there you go. Steve Daniel, driver of the 96 SKKJ Racing Ferrari, finishing second tonight in GT3 AM. So let's go now and bring in Larry, driver of the number 263 Geodesic Racing BMW, our winner tonight in GT3 Pro. That's Evan Peichel.
All right, we've got Evan Peichel here with us. And Evan, you started right up front. You were able to hold that lead through the first couple laps. But boy, Andre Saunders really pressured you through that first stint. So were you driving it all conservative, or are you just trying to do everything you could to hold him back there?
Pretty much the entire race, I was trying to drive as conservative as possible. In practice, I could barely get a 5-lap stint,
Hmm.
and I'm just happy I was able to keep it on track the entire time.
It's just one of those tracks, just tough to get the right setup balance around here, where it's quick, but it's manageable. Is that the challenge?
I think the issue with it was I was using a setup from before the um, GT3 Aero update,
Mm.
and I made a change like 15 minutes left with practice, and it felt a lot better. And then I got a little bit of confidence there, but still tried to not overdrive the car.
Yeah, well, as the race progressed, and it looked like Andre may have had some issues there with, I don't know if he had tried a different strategy, perhaps took some tires and such, but it kind of put him back. Were you watching the gaps and trying to figure out who's coming at you, whether it was Tony Kernan or whether it was going to be Andre? Were you trying to figure that all out as you're driving through the race?
Well, when I saw him pit early, I thought he was gonna come out in front of me, and then I realized Watkins Glen is one of those tracks that you gain a lot of time from having not as much feel,
Mm.
and then I kind of knew I just had to keep it clean and, as another Bob Ross quote here, not make any happy accidents. And then, yeah.
Yeah, well, that seemed to be what you did tonight, just kind of keeping it clean and let all the action, all the spins, and all the contacts and things kind of happen behind you, as there were quite a few of them tonight, unfortunately. But for you, relatively clean and able to come away with that victory and another victory here in a line of them. But as we've turned to the second half of the season, you kind of starting to scope out where you can get the max points here for the next 3 rounds.
Um, Not really. I've been more focused on racing official races, but still try to put a lot of effort into this league. And I'm just hoping at the next few tracks they will challenge me in a different way that I haven't been challenged, and I'll be able to learn from it.
Yeah, well, next up is VIR, always a tough track. And but here, coming off of back-to-back victories, has got you set up pretty well here through the start of the second half of the season. So congratulations on the win. Is anybody you want to thank for some help getting you here tonight?
Yeah, I want to thank my teammates for making the baseline of the setup. I know it was from last Arrow update from the 6 hour of Watkins Glen, but if it wasn't for that setup, I don't think I would have won the race tonight. And uh, my my parents and grandparents and siblings.
We've got a great audience here watching you and
Yep.
taking it home to victory. So congratulations on that. Looking forward to seeing you at VIR in a few weeks.
All right, there you go. Evan Peichel, driver of the number 263 Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing BMW, our winner tonight in GT3 Pro. And Larry, unfortunately, I don't think we've got any of our LMP2 drivers joining us this evening, so why don't we just wrap things up here? Let's take a look and see what we've got coming up on the schedule here. Next week, next Monday night, November 15th, the return of the Lambo Trophy Series Round 6. It's going to be at Sebring International Raceway, as we always do, in that fixed setup series. Going to run two 30-minute sprint races with an inverted grid for the second race. You don't want to miss it. And then in 2 weeks, as you said, we're going to be heading off to Heaven on Earth, Virginia International Raceway for Round 6 of the World Challenge. That's going to be Monday night, November 22nd. All these races starting at 8 p.m. now Eastern Standard Time. You don't want to miss it. I know Larry and I won't miss it, so come on out and join us. And, of course, if you like what you've seen here tonight, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to Apex Racing TV, and also click on that notification bell. And remember, you can find out more about the Ricmotech World Challenge by heading to www.extrememotorsports99.com/world-challenge for point standings, upcoming events, and everything about all of our different Ricmotech series. So for Larry Lefty McLeod, I'm Greg Ginsburg, and we're going to see you next Monday night from Sebring International Raceway.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, ricmotech.com.